really effective because you have to shoot multiple things, but I do think potential information off the sky is going to have quite a lot of value, and they also have Omen as well.
Starting the round off here, Toki going for that early peek. Instead, takes quite a bit of damage for her troubles. And while that dark cover does come down, I don't know how much of the space it's really going to deny. Toki forced to get out of there, try to play in for that retake. And already look at the amount of space that Vania has taken. It's just going to be a rotate by G2 after putting all of that pressure. It does seem like Falcons have an inkling of this, though.
Yeah, already rotating a few players over in the right direction. Turret being destroyed will give a lot of the information. I feel like Sandra hidden down below could be an issue for them if they're unable to clear. And the lurk on the other side has also been spotted.
Vania gets taken out there, and Falcons, they already have 3 players on the site ready to go, and only Lurch goes down before any damage. Vania, of course, still on the lurk, 21 HP, a 1v4. We've seen her pull off miracles before, but I feel like in this pistol, at least, it's a little bit too much for her to really handle, especially with that spike being dropped all the way on that A site. And like you mentioned, just really, really good calls and reads from Falcons to be just prepared for that A onslaught, especially that paranoia. It was so clean.
Yeah, I think they put themselves in a good position this round. They were actually very, very passive, and I wonder if that's just something down to what they're coming up against here. Obviously, a lot of what we're looking at is going to be rezq trying to take the space, and then Petra kind of following up on the other side of things. I think that's one of the issues with this map in general, is you kind of need someone with a little bit of mobility.
10
For
seconds
Vania
left.
here, the thing is, getting orbs, I'm not even going to talk about it, I'll be honest. You're going for a from the shadows. It's an ult that has impact once in a blue moon. And for Falcons, a very, very clean start, off to a great initial start in this map. And I think it's something that we have to bear in mind, is that even though they managed to win last time out, no matter what match you go into, I feel like G2 always slightly edge it in terms of being the favorites.
Yeah, I mean, they already have that reputation of being that first champions in that game changers, and of course, like our analyst desk did mention, they have arguably the 2 best pickups on this team with Vania and Amy. So kind of excited to see how the roster continues, as it is pretty exciting for me, because I think that in that group stage G2, they were kind of upset by this very team. And yeah, we don't have Sunset coming in, but Ascent as a map, it's not like one that G2 have really played on this year, if I'm not wrong. So this team comp, as well as everything, it's got to be a surprise. Now G2 looking to funnel all 5 players into this A short. Already the Ludge able to find that smackdown, take down 2 already, and reposition onto the side. Dark cover comes down. Vania on the hunt here, knows that the Omen is low, and the 3 players on G2's side, you can see Ludge desperately fighting for their life here to stay alive for quite a while before Vania shuts that down. 3v3 situation. There has been a couple of Spectres retrieved here by Vania and Amy. Oh.
Yeah, the util a little bit off actually from the defenders. They tried to get back in, but the pot flash blinded themselves. The problem now for G2 is getting out of this corner. You go for the plant, you expect somebody to push. There's actually nobody watching the heaven side, but luckily for Vania, no one goes peeking. And now they have to go for the retake.
There's no recon dart either, so all of this has to be contact here. Vania under heaven, already able to find that first kill, and again, it's just those immaculate crossfires from G2. No avenue given, and they start off with classics and end the round with a couple of bulldogs and a spectre. So really nice anti-eco stolen away there by G2, just by position.
That was a sort of nothing investment, and yeah, I'm surprised they get away with as much as they do. Obviously, Luge doing well initially, but just being able to isolate these duels. I think Vania again, maybe hearing the desk, like saying, oh, you know, stats have been average for Vania, not average for anyone else. Very good for anyone else, but average for Vania, and now already at the top of the board, winning a round with a classic. Not bad.
You start with a classic and with a Spectre and a triple. Of course, it feels like you're seeking redemption, or at least proving a point there. That said, though, G2 once again, they're changing.
Oh,
yeah,
look, they're going to clear out all of the players. Damn. Yeah. This is obviously an eco round. It's a gamble stack. Nobody going to be on the site at all. And honestly, for Falcons, it's depressing, but I think they're going to have to die to the spike.
Yeah, pretty much. They went for that gamble stack on the B site. Unfortunately, gamble wrong, I suppose. And at this point, you can already see G2, they have their protocols ready. The paranoia for the take here, as well as anything else. If they hear any noise, they're ready to play that push. But instead, it's like you said, just not the willingness to give up the ult orbs here to G2. Already seeing that they are charging up a couple of these. Vania, of course, the highest, like you mentioned, the From the Shadows. Not the most useful ult here, but you can see rezq looking to get a couple of more ults here, a couple of kills maybe. And yeah, G2, they might end up losing a Spectre or two, but you can already see rezq has isolated yet another fight, almost a third. And now it's just Vania for the cleanup here. Still Falcons. They find a couple of picks before the round ends. And all things considered, it's good for G2 because they charge up the showstopper just a little bit more.
I think that was the only goal. Like, realistically, okay, they lose a Bulldog and a Spectre. The Bulldog's not going to be kept over because the players can buy into full rifles in the next round. And for rezq, I don't think she wants to keep the Spectre either, especially as that entry fragger. So it just allows her to get that little bit closer to the showstopper. And that's something that you definitely get brought in with the Raze. Obviously, you could talk about the same with Jet, like having that Blade Storm potential, and already that value going to be coming through into the operator. But that showstopper can be terrifying if used correctly.
Could be one of those huge ults to take that space onto side, especially since we're seeing Falcons now with their first full buy. Toki with the operator has been spotted out here towards short, and immediately with that tag, you can see rezq taking up that space, kind of going solo here. Does have a flash initiator with her in the form of Mimi, and madv on short, the sole player to kind of hold this down here. Immediately gonna repivot over towards heaven, compromises that space, and Toki with the operator finds that first kill. Petra gets shut down, Ludge on site with the second, and madv for the follow-up here. G2 brought down to 2 members, make that one as rezq also gets shut down. Of course, Amy, we've talked about her lurks before, we talked about her impact, but in this 1v4, how much more can she really do? She gets the first, but that will be that, and Falcons, they find a good defensive round.
Yeah, I think Falcons at the moment are one of the few teams that I'm watching that can actually somewhat face off against G2 just in terms of individual ability. I think madv especially has been someone highlighted in the league for quite a while, and just some really nice shots hit from her in this round. A good read and rotation as well. I think Falcons, when they've had the players in the right place at the right time, have been able to shut out quite a lot of these pushes. But as said, this is where things get a little bit more dangerous. The economy of G2 is still off the charts, and it looks like we're going to get an early battle in EMEA.
Paranoia, flash, in fact, double flash setup, and that showstopper that you mentioned, starting things off here, just scaling up short. You can already see Falcons, they're playing a little bit more back. madv barely able to get away with their HP here, 16 and a dream. And on site, once again, it's just Ludge and Toki trying to play that high-low setup. Again, though, with the amount of flashes in this G2 comp, it's gonna leave Ludge kind of isolated on site. Toki trying to go in for the repeat. Petra, though, finds a kill. Vania and Mimi get one apiece, and once again, it's advantage going to G2. A very quick shutdown as well. They didn't even need to get the spike down. Forget a post plan, it's just everybody dead on site.
This is the thing. There was an okay rotation there from Falcons, but I think what G2 are basically playing off at in a lot of these rounds is if we don't allow them to get into position in time, we're going to get a 5vx in whatever scenario we go for. And that some of the rounds that G2 have been throwing in have been incredibly fast. So you have to push through short to take space, showstopper to isolate, so the players through A main are not going to get caught on the cross. Really cleverly done, and then they can just execute into the site. And not only do they have the abundance of flashes, but they also have the cages to be used as extra smokes. Just a nice little execute for them, and unfortunately Falcons with no cash to play with here.
Yeah, no cash. They try to go in for some early B pressure, maybe hoping to catch out the lurk, but instead it's G2 numbers there to find the kills. Triple already, and for good measure, there is that neural theft as well to confirm that this B site is completely empty and open for business. A little bit of extra sustain as well. Already Petra in position to try and find a couple of these kills, does spot out the position, and now it's just kind of baiting for Vania here, tucked into the corner. I mean, for Falcons, like you said, not the greatest economy, Tom, so it's just about how much damage they can really find. And towards mid, at least, I don't know, they look like they want to go back towards market. Instead, it's going to be the Paranoia, and the swing from Vania catches out Sandra. Now, Sandra versus the world in the corner. They know exactly where she is, and G2 happy to go on the hunt. Sandra, though, finds a double with the Sheriff. Almost a triple. Finally, Lavani says, Amy says, that's enough of that. And G2, they convert the round here, but Falcons, those are a couple of nice shots there.
Yeah, they're at least keeping G2 honest in some of these rounds, but again, you could just see the farming up of ultimates, Seekers. Not going to be far away, at least. The shots that are being connected. That's actually the really interesting thing now thinking about it with G2's composition is I'd say they have 3 of the middest ults in the game, all on one team. So it's kind of like a lot of teams, you're going to look at them and go, okay, if they stack up their ults, like look at the other side, for example, Lockdown, Bladestorm, Hunter's Fury, Null Command, all really high impact ults. Then on the other side, from the shadows, Empress. Yeah, Empress is Reyna's ult. I'm sure most people don't even know the name of it because it sucks. And the neural theft. So it's one of those things.
Did you
where
just
it's
call
like,
neural theft mid? Excuse me.
very, very mid. Yes.
No, you did not just say that. 6-point ult, so much information, double tag. It's one of the reasons why Cypher has been so broken.
Mid. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where you're not going to have those same sort of flood rounds you can get with some of the other ultimates that are available. So for G2, a lot of this is going to come off the explosive nature of the comp, but they're doing very well in a lot of these early rounds to temper any aggression. Like for Toki, for the most part, she's been shut down other than just having that passive A-side operator, and they haven't really given her anything. I've liked the way that one of the normal peeks is to peek in from short, and they just have a cam watching it. So if she does peek, they know she's there, and to re-peek it, I don't know. It's a bit of a gamble, that's for sure.
This time around, the operator not going to really be on the field. Unfortunately, economy doesn't extend quite that far for the Falcon, for the Falcon side. G2 now switching things around here. They've gone for those straight side executes more or less for the last couple of rounds, but now it's mid to B that we're looking at off the back of those Seekers. Both the players towards that backside position is going to be revealed in that boathouse thanks to the Seekers here, and a bit of cover fire from the switchboard towards CT might help them isolate the fights. Petra does pop the Empress. Unfortunately, not going to help her much as Sandra takes her down here. No trade incoming quite yet. You do see with the star cover, the push attempt trying to come through. Both players looking at the same angle, and Vania just darts in to find a kill. Eva at least able to find one more, but the numbers, they stay even. Just rescue now on site. Toki and Ludge looking to find a revive onto madv. It could be the timing here. Unfortunately, no revive incoming quite yet, although rescue might be able to at least tap and fake it a little bit. Once again, the revive attempt coming through here. This time around, though, rescue able to find a kill. Unfortunately, Ludge there for the reswing, and G2, they are not able to find that round.
Yeah, again, these brute force takes, a lot of it just comes down to these really scrappy battles, which I don't think they're going to mind too much. Again, like, a lot of the Raider just from Petra, an attempted dry peek doesn't quite work out, and the trades on the site and final fight definitely made me a little bit nervous. Like, going for that res, I thought they'd just try and almost go for that one as a duo and just leave their teammate for dead, but fair play. They do manage to get her back up, and now you have the ult stack building up on the Falcons side. A good position to be in. An incredibly risky play. I assume there's a dart, but there needs to be a little bit more. I think the Hunter's Fury is just a little bit too late.
Yeah, timing not quite precise. At least Toki able to take down Amy. Huge kill there. Now madv going in for a swing on short. Is not aware that rescue has already taken up that space, and now off the back of that G2, they go in for the follow-up here. Utility bombarded, short control taken, and it's still Toki on Heaven, looking to find the value here with this Guardian. 2 kills in the round, but that's going to be all that she finds. Door closes now. G2 in position of sight. Get that spike down, and it's a 2v3 retake here, but look at what Sandra has. That's a lockdown.
It's possible to put it in for this retake. It was whether they're going to gamble it or not. But you can already see the long rotation coming back from Mimi. This is something they're well aware of. From the shadows as well, could be used just to try and dodge it if they wanted to. And Petra, they actually get caught. It just about escapes, but Ava is more than prepared.
2v2 situation. Really nice kill to narrow it down. And with the one-way, Vania looking to play time. The wraparound is there from short as well for Mimi. Trailblazer gonna give away that position, and with this one-way, you can see Sandra just trying to stick to defuse here. Vania, though, able to find the kill, and again, it's that contact play, the 1-2 swing, and G2, they clean house to get that lead a little bit further ahead here, 5-3. That was a really good one-way.
It was a well-played post plan. I actually don't mind the attempted 2v3 setup, though. Like, they had a turret watching on short, which actually gave away Mimi's position a little bit before the Trailblazer did. So they were well aware of her spot. It is just this one way. Like, you can't see anything. You're very reliant on the other player being able to isolate one of the jewels. I'm pretty sure if they got it to half, they would have potentially tried to fight that one back. Unfortunately for Falcons, again, even in the rounds they're winning, they're not particularly clean. So financially back in the bin, and 5 rounds already on the attack side of Ascent, that's a pretty damn good start.
Undersided map is what this game tends to be called, and unless you're too competitionally mixed up here. That said, though, very quick side take for GT once again. The kind of setup towards mid and B not quite working out for Falcons, although they're going to be looking a little bit closer in this retake attempt. Toki does have the Blade Storm here. So far hasn't found anything, and right now it's a question of how exactly Falcons are going to be able to push the G2 players out of their post plants on site. Toki though already finding a kill with the Blades on Amy. Sandra chimes in with a Sheriff shot as well, and on site here, they're all that remain. Mimi finds a couple. Vania chimes in with one, but that's it. Immediate refrags to come in for Falcons, and you know, even though we didn't see half of those kills on the screen there, Tom, I feel like G2 were just as unprepared for that round to swing completely in favor, especially, you know, those Sheriff shots towards the end. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I'm curious where, if that was like an updraft couple of kills from Toki, obviously a little bit more difficult to do nowadays because her 2 entries into the site just threw things into chaos. So you could see the players on site themselves not even realizing that some of the opposing team are already fully within the site. A big round for them to take, still not doing enough damage to the economy of G2 though. As I said, they've been keeping a lot of these rounds clean, and by the looks of it, they're about to just try and blitz B with the Showstopper again.
Showstopper could also see the Seekers coming in. We didn't see that Mimi used that the last time around. They wanted to push towards this B site. 2 huge ults potentially online here for G2. Like you mentioned, the Showstopper gonna open things off here. They do know that there's a couple of players backside, and Lush TP's in, but this might be the damage. At least Rescue able to take down Eva here with the Showstopper. But again, Falcons, they were so ready for this B site hit. And you can see the immediate rotations as well as a swing off the back of Rescue being isolated by that Killjoy utility to just be able to clean up those kills.
Yeah, I think this might be the point where G2 start to try and slow things down a little bit. That round, I think, was just a little bit too scripted, and the small amount of utility that was there from Sandra, just having the turret, spotting that little bit of information early, that was enough to just go, okay, we're just going to rotate everybody. Like, the full team was immediately sprinting in towards the defense of that B site. And I think if G2 were going to go for that, it needed to be faster. It needed to be past that Nano Swarm. There need to be something to try and delete that utility before they ran into the initial problem. So good work from Falcons. Again, it does feel like they're weathering the storm. And I'm definitely curious to see how G2's comp will actually work over on this defensive side. Because firstly, a lot of the time you're going to see this sort of like Sova combination with the KO, and instead they don't have as much in terms of running the Sky, especially now that the flashes don't actually replenish themselves. It's not going to be as much information as you'd like, and also just running the double duelist. I assume there's going to have to be quite a lot of aggression. So for Falcons, although you're looking at 5-5, you're thinking that's not a great defensive half. I'm not convinced this G2 comp's going to be great on the defense either.
I mean, while I do agree that Killjoy is by far the superior Sentinel on this map, as I am a Killjoy player myself, I do think that there are a couple of Cypher setups that could prove to be really annoying and could also compensate for that lack of info that you get usually from that traditional double initiator, one being the Sova, which is much more precise in the Sky. That said, though, I mean, I think that G2, they are going to be very aggressive on their defensive side. Kind of curious to see where exactly they're going to be pushing, but right now, at least, they're still on attack here. A bit of an eco round coming in for them. They do have the Seekers for Mimi, but again, you can see the setup, the high-low here. Again, the quick rotation over as well from the side, and it's Sandra, in fact, to find a couple of kills. One with the turret, one with the Vandal. Amy at least able to get a counter, but once again, Ludge is still on site here, able to find that kill onto Petra, and while Vania at least gets one with the Sheriff, they're going to be surrounded on all sides by enemies. A third, though! Vania going absolutely crazy in a 1v1, and while madv has the gun, Vania, she has the op here. Spike in her control as well, could possibly try to go for the rotate, the crossover though towards Jenny. I don't know if she knows here, the flash might give away the position though, and Vania! Just an insane clutch! My god.
That's definitely one of the best Red Bull clutches I've seen so far this tournament. There is a reason that G2 went out there and spent the big bucks buying out the superstar of BBL, because that is one of the most ridiculous clutches I've ever seen. Being able to the thing is, I don't even think the spacing from Falcons was that bad. The drop down, it was just a couple of insane shots, and then TPing over to reclaim that operator. It's one of the first times I think I've actually seen the G2 players properly celebrate. They've been so chill, but that was insane.
Really, really clean. That's going to be a huge morale boost as well, and unfortunately off the back of that, no operator is going to be online for Falcons in this one. I mean, it might be for the better, seeing that it hasn't really found the greatest value aside from those occasional heaven peaks on the retake. That said, though, we're going to have the Empress back online for Petra, haven't really seen it find too much value so far, and I think for Falcons, what's important is that they do have this lockdown available for the retake. They're playing a little bit more passive than you expect them to, and off the back of those Seekers, a huge kill to come through for rescue here. Still, though, Eva and Toki find one apiece. Toki still bringing the damage. Neural Threft's finally going to come out, though. Will detect the position of all three players towards heaven, and you can see Mimi still looking for the fight here. Swings with Amy. Amy finds both players, in fact, on site, and now it's just Toki versus both, and this is just Amy's world. You know, that Neural Theft, you would think that G2 would go for the spike rotate off the back of it, but instead they just go swinging, and if that doesn't describe G2, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I guess it's more so just where the spike was. Like, getting it back would have been a ridiculously long rotation, and they couldn't be bothered. So just decided to dome everyone instead, and that is it. It's like, as I said at the beginning, there are few teams in this entire tournament that can go toe-to-toe with them individually. Falcons do seem to be one of them, but every once in a while you see the sheer force that G2 could just throw into a round. They'll take a 7-5 lead on that attack side, but as said, now I want to see what sort of aggressive set plays they've got on this defense. And with 2 players in mid, 1 on short, I'm guessing we're about to see some sort of pincer into mid.
See if that is the case here. Especially with that double duelist kind of along the lines as well. So far, though, they're not going too far ahead of themselves. Petra, along with Rescue here, could possibly find the crunch, but instead for Falcons, it's just a pretty straightforward walk up towards that A site. No footsteps having been given away yet, or not taken either, so they just look to go in for this pretty straightforward execute. Of course, smoke, dash, Toki sees no one on site, will be able to at least get that plant down possibly, and G2, you already see them ready for that retake. The lurk though from Sandra, that's a huge kill on Petra.
Yeah, that might be the difference. They're going to have to now really worry about those players coming in from behind. Toki, underneath, has been able to hold the line at least a little bit. And there's Amy once again. Always fearsome in these sort of moments, but now that she's down, it's left all onto Vania. Already managing an insane clutch just moments ago, but this one would have to be even better to pull it off, and it's not going to happen. madv with another triple kill. Falcons, they're going to have themselves a 6th.
Pretty nice. This should see them, unless of course G2 steal away another anti-eco. This should see them
again.
again. Yeah, I don't want to jinx Falcons, you know, but this should see them most likely evening up the scoreboard here. That said, though, for G2, timing's not quite correct, and I feel like this is a very, very passive setup for the kind of agent comp they're running. You didn't really see that Sky try to find info early on either on the map, which kind of puzzled me.
For this round, at least. It's the same as what we saw in the last half. It is going to be a complete gamble stack. This time on A, you can see for Falcons being a little bit more diligent. Like, you've got yourself a double initiator here. Right? If they walk into the stack, I am going to be a little bit upset with them, I'll be honest. But it does seem like they're slowly probing in towards the B site. The drone's going to clear all of the close angles, all of the danger points. And once Toki takes the space, this round is basically done already.
Yeah, glad to agree with you there, G2. They seem to have an inkling that everything's afoot on the B site. Quite a heavy purchase here coming in from the Falcons, so I think for G2, if they can find a couple of these picks here, it might be huge. I mean, we saw what they could do with Classics in that last anti-eco. This time around, a little bit less to work with in terms of information and space, but it's G2, so the call might just be to try and go in for a last-minute blitz, try and find a kill or two before dying to the spike here. Nobody really even trying to break that door open. You gotta just see them waiting for maybe somebody to reflank in through market, but Falcons, they're not risking anything. They're just playing that post plan to perfection. They know this is G2. You give them a gun, they might take a couple more from you in exchange, and yeah, it's just a round that is gonna be very, very quiet if you consider who's playing.
Yeah, I think the whole plan, again, is just go down to the spike. Don't allow your opponents to build up any orbs whatsoever. You don't want to allow them to, say, get a Blade Storm, or in a more likely case, go for the Null Command. And hey, Toki's still going to manage to get one. I guess it's an orb to the other direction as well. Both players will be at a similar spot with barely any kills on the board. But this is now where we expect things to get a little bit more interesting. Now, for Falcons, they lose no players. I think Toki will probably buy into a rifle as well, so they should have a pretty decent purchase going into this one. And on the other side of things, obviously now you have the rifles across the board. It was almost a flat eco out from G2. Their expectations are obviously that they'll do better in their buy rounds.
I mean, 5 Vandals across the board. Hopefully, yeah, they can do a little bit more. But the problem here is that, like you mentioned, we're going to see those 2 initial Vandals coming in. The one tap, though, from across short, it's going to take out madv for the rest of the duration. So no possibility of a null command either. Now the reposition from Rescue, but the bait, yeah, Petra tucked away into the corner. Just takes down Toki and still does have that dismiss if she needs to get out. Going to be opting to hold down the position, though. Does have the dark cover that could come down, letting her reposition possibly. And again, it's just both duelists for G2 holding down mid and still contesting it. Petra, of course, gonna be able to reposition back towards this crossfire, and Eva, for her troubles, does get this Vandal, but that said, that's 2 huge kills for G2 to start off.
With a full Cypher setup on A, the worry will always be that your opponent's going to try and do something cheeky through mid, but the fact is they were more than happy to try and hold on to it, and well, Luj was waiting for the attempted fallback, but it's got nothing. Now, that mid control has been garnered, but you can see that Petra is more than happy to just passively sit. That's disgusting. I have X-ray and I barely saw anything.
It's just the pixel angle, and apparently a pixel is all that Petra needs. Now, 2 players left. Luj and Eva, of course, do have some weaponry. Eva tries to go for the swing onto something, but instead is greeted by the full G2 squadron.
Oh, no.
Now, they're just jumping around. They know exactly where Luj is. The flash, the peek, and poor Luj here, 19 HP. What can she really do? Peeks into 4 players in G2. That's then onto Lucio, follows in their buy round here, making a statement like, all right, you know, we might have started off a little bit slow here on defense, but we are so back.
It's the best way to start things off, and the Luthia flawless, just to make things that little bit sweeter for them. Now, obviously, this was a bonus, but you kind of hope for the sake of Falcons they're at least able to do a little bit of damage, like bring something through to challenge in this next round. madv is still 1 away from that null command, and especially up against the likes of a Cypher, you're expecting to see EMEA play away from the site, just to try and avoid all of that utility going offline. For now, at least, it's where the aggression's coming through, and it's B main.
Yeah, I remember our analyst that's talking about Paper Rex tactics. This is exactly what I expect to see. The 3-person push coming in. They already take care of that pesky little turret. This time around, though, opting to fall back once that Trailblazer gets broken without too much in return here. Already a huge piece of utility, no longer going to be available for the duration of the round. Mimi has to be very conservative with this guy util. Rescue, though, going to be holding that aggressive angle. Will take care of the drone, so at least both the high info pieces of utility have been taken out of the equation. And there is a rotation coming over towards his A side, but Vania already towards A main, playing aggressively, jiggling, and does have the Cypher util to fall back on if necessary, along with this one-way.
Yeah, as you can see, EMEA is as far away as humanly possible just to make sure that that isn't going to be a problem going into the latter stages. And also with all of them going through A main, you can see the push already beginning through mid. The only job for Vania, try and buy as much time as possible, paranoia in hand to try and do just that. Although Toki has been able to get over this. It's going to be that initial fight, and Toki's going to win it.
Yeah, first frag to come through. No more smokes available for the retake, although G2 at least they've reconvened and they know for a fact that, alright, there's nobody coming in through mid as of yet. In fact, Petra already on the flank here has been detected and will at least catch the attention of some of these players before rotating back towards the site itself. Turret gotta be broken now, and you can see how far back Falcons have gone to try and make sure Petra will not be reconvening through that angle. Under heaven, Toki gets a collide, and suddenly this retake attempt falls apart for G2. Falcons say, you want an Andalusia flawless? Well, so can we. They equate the score 8-8 here. That was such a nice round from Toki.
Yeah, no, she did fantastically well, but I'm also liking the way the Falcons are being very proactive in their post-plant. I think a lot of teams on this map in particular, once they get onto the site, once they get into an afterplant, are normally fairly content to sort of sit passively and almost just wait to see what their opponents are going to do. But they took so much map control that any flank that was being attempted by G2 was an utter failure. On out, we are going to see another purchase in, no problems after the previous flawless from G2. If they lose this next one, it might be a bit more problematic.
You know, of all things I had on my bingo card, Petra on Arena opping was not one of them, but I'm here for it. So far, at least, it hasn't found too much. I think that Falcons do know that there is an op right now, so I'm surprised we haven't seen too much of a re-rotate away by Petra. That said, though, early on, you're going to be seeing Falcons pivoting a little bit more towards that B side after the defaulting. They know that there's an op. they know that they have. I don't think they've figured out that EMEA is on this B site so far yet. I think a little bit of utility being used might give that away. And like you mentioned, look at how far back EMEA is just happy to set themselves up here.
Yeah, the only problem will be is if nobody walks into those trips, it is just going to have to be that almost 5v5 retake. You can see the cross being attempted to be held.
Oh.
Oh, there you go. Eventually, it comes true. They needed that kill because otherwise the retake is going to be incredibly difficult. Instead, now they at least have a player advantage.
5v4, like you said. Rescue does have a paint shells available for clearing out either the cubby or towards that backside, and Vania, of course, the crunch has to come in from CT and Market here too, towards Market, but with this operator, it's gonna be a little bit more awkward here. So Drone does tag out Vania, delaying that retake a little bit. Eva, in fact, shuts down Rescue, so that's gonna bring the numbers back in favor. Huge paranoia that connects with like, multiple players here, and Sandra towards main, doing her best to wreak some havoc. Now Eva, though, unfortunately, 1v3, isolates the first, reload online for Vania, but it doesn't matter because Mimi will be able to swing around and get that kill. A really nice attempt from Eva at winning out that 1v3, but instead G2, they make that retake work out, and Vania retrieves the operator as well, so hopefully Petra finds a little bit more in that next round from it.
If anybody was going to be able to do it, it would be Ava. She has had an insane tournament thus far with Falcons, but it will be G2 to reclaim their lead. A back and forth thus far, and again, an Andaluthia flawless in the prior round means that for the Falcons, they are still going to have a plentiful buy and also have an awful lot of ultimates that are coming close to being online. It does look again, though, like we might be about to see that attempted B main aggression. Didn't have too much success last time out, but they've got a cheeky little pop flash set up in case they need it.
Again, that turret gonna be broken early on here. Space gonna be taken towards main. Operator gonna be swapped back out, and Petra, you can see her going in for that reposition, possibly towards mid. The spike itself looking towards A, hoping for perhaps G2 getting aggressive, maybe a push or two. Instead, though, Falcons just gonna be forced to wait out this one way once again. Vania buying so much time on this A main. You see the respect coming out of Falcons on multiple rounds here. Just kind of forced to at least use a lot of utility to clear out the space or just wait for it to go down. Now, the null command gonna be popped for the execute finally, but since Amy is playing a little bit far back, not gonna be able to get shut down quite yet. The tripwire still online means that Vania will be able to find the kill onto madv, and while possibly madv could be resurrected, it's gonna have to be very, very careful. The recon dart comes through, but instead it's just a swing from G2 on towards heaven. Beautiful paranoia from Vania, who's still looking to fight it out, and Petra jumps down with the classic. Doesn't even matter. She doesn't even need to swap out the gun here. The neural theft to come through, reveal exactly where Ludge is. Once again, a 1v3 that Falcons will have to clutch out to get the round here. Two players towards heaven. Ludge knows that the push could be coming in any second towards short. Having to isolate these fights, it's very difficult. Gets one onto Petra, but Petra will find the better in that scenario. 10-2 as G2 gets 10-8 as G2 get to double digits.
Yeah, I think it's got to be infuriating the amount of damage that's currently being done just by Amy's trips, like consistently catching one of those opening kills, and that's the thing. After that point, G2 are just able to basically use their fundamentals, just swing together, trade together. The sort of basics of FPS is something that obviously the likes of Petra and Mimi have definitely mastered many years ago. So I think that's really where Falcons are struggling a little bit and just need to be a little bit more careful about the utility that they're attempting to avoid. But you kind of understand it. When you throw in a null command, you kind of expect those abilities to be offline. For now, though, definitely not a death sentence, but they do have to be careful. Finances pretty much on the brink here. They could gamble and go in with the Blade Storm, and as said, they're one off a Hunter's Fury, a couple off a Lockdown, so there are ults that could potentially pad the gaps, but obviously on the other side of things, no trouble in terms of those finances. And also Vania's popping off, which as many teams have witnessed throughout game changers over the last year or so, there's not a lot you can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, Vania popping off is the death knell for most maps, and this map, at least she started with a vengeance here on that anti-eco. She's come out to play. I feel like, yeah, like you said, she took what our AD said a little bit to heart and is intent on proving all of us wrong. So though 10-8, like you mentioned, for the side of Falcons, gonna be a bit of a half buy, not the greatest to work with, and you can see that Blade Storm, Toki trying to go take up that early space here. Instead, it's gonna be Petra being able to not just get that kill, but also reposition, and holds on to that angle, the spike gets dropped as well, which is going to make it a little bit tough. And that's that huge ultimate that, like you mentioned, could have made this round a little bit more viable, like Falcons did in that previous half while winning that Thrifty, taken offline in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think also the bigger issue is just not having your jet.
Oh my god,
could
the
be a
collab.
huge issue for taking space. I don't even know if it's going to be the top 10 on their list of problems in this round already. The double kill coming in for rezq, and you can see again, G2 are never static. Consistent re-aggressions, like taking space as a duo. Mimi and Vania just having a look up on the short, and this push isn't really going anywhere. They almost need to hope that somebody makes a mistake, but bear in mind, Sandra has a stinger coming out of A main. Good luck.
Yeah, against the operator, not going to be finding too much. Now, Ludge position known once again. 2 players from G2 on the other side, lying in wait, just holding the angle, in fact, along with the operator, and it will be the operator to find that kill. You know, Petra might have had a little bit of a slow start to this game, but in these last couple of rounds has been having that consistent impact. Falcons, this is arguably their last chance to kind of get back into this here with the scoreline being what it is, and this buy, it has to work out, especially with the ultimates that they have in their pocket.
It's also a bit of a worry as well because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next map coming up is going to be Icebox, which obviously for Falcons was a great map when they played versus Focus Sakura, but it's also a map that G2 Gozen have been dominating. They've won it 4 times throughout. It's their most, or joint most played map, so I wouldn't like to be heading into that unless I had a serious game plan to destroy their strats. For now though, well, it is going to be, or it should be, a free A site with the push coming through. Now again, they've got to deal with those trips. We'll see if any of them are going to be problematic for them here.
So far, at least it's just a camera. Does spot out Toki, and off the back of that, Vania finds the kill. Showstopper for some additional pressure, and rezq delivers here, shutting down Ludge. G2, they didn't even wait for that spike to go down before they swing off the back of their utility, and now the spike gonna be dropped in such an awkward position. Sandra at least able to find a kill onto Mimi here, but look at the positioning of the Falcons here. All of them towards A main. Spike dropped on the site, and there's an operator from Petra holding down the fort. EMEA as well, with short under lockdown. There is some time on the clock here for Falcons to try and make something work, but it's just, again, G2, they look so dominant here right now. 2 players left, Sandra being incredibly low to boot, and at this point, I feel like it might just be better to cut your losses. All right, madv, that's a nice kill onto Petra.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, it's even still getting through that choke should be impossible. A paranoia still available if they even need it. And with the smokes just delaying such a ludicrous amount of time, they basically just have to throw everything into the wind here if there's going to be any level of hope. And bear in mind, the economy's low. And there's that paranoia. That's the thing. Vania saved her paranoia until the last 12 seconds of the round. You realize how annoying that is to play against? She could have used it to slow them down earlier if she wanted to, but just had confidence in her teammates. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. That's another round that they've lost almost solely to the Cypher setup. And we could get the scoreboard up. Amy's at the bottom, and the assists aren't really showing for what they're worth. But the amount of value her Cypher has got in this game on the defense has been unbelievable.
Yeah, I feel like since Ascent, it's been out since the game came into existence and hasn't really been taken out of the rotation. I don't know why. But that said, I feel like Ascent's Killjoy, you know, it's something that everybody's kind of figured out how to play around here, but, you know, especially with Cypher getting those buffs a couple patches ago, and in general just being a really, really annoying agent, you haven't really seen too much of it around Ascent because of how strong a Killjoy is, so I think that is adding to the chaos factor here. Falcons kind of struggling in terms of being able to shut Amy down, especially when, like you mentioned, because that Cypher util doesn't go down, she's playing so far away from the site, so consistently being able to find value with those trips is huge. Falcons now pivoting a little bit, going towards mid and short instead. Operator not going to be on this line, although rezq does get that initial information, baiting for Amy here. Still able to stay alive, and a beautiful dark cover from Vania does help them stay alive a little bit longer. Mimi tries to swing over instead, though. It's just going to be a couple of kills going the Falcons' way. Amy at least able to find that first, but again, the collateral, almost the double kill rather. Amy going huge and has the spike in her control. 2v3 scenario. Petra towards B, of course, trying to hold down the fort, but Amy, along with Vania, they have the spike still.
This attack side has been so messy. madv hand delivers the spike. The other 2 players have to try and retrieve it, and both of them go down to Amy, since she might not be at the top of the scoreboard right now, but She might just give it a go. I think she's got a while to try and catch up to
30
Vania, and the
seconds
map
left.
might genuinely end before she gets there. 25 seconds. It's got to be a race to the finish for this attack side if they're going to have any chance of winning this. I feel like they almost have to win off elimination, and they pick the wrong corner. AB's going to close it out with a 4K, and G2 in the end close things out quite comfortably.
Yeah, comfortable is an understatement. I feel like they only lost a couple of rounds on the defensive side, and that was usually where they were at a little bit of an economic situation after that pistol. G2 looking almost flawless in their second half. Of course, on the first, it was a little bit more back and forth. That meta composition with the Killjoy really doing a good job of being able to take care of the site, you know, make those retakes viable for the side of Falcons and help them keep that advantage heading into those retake situations. But once that